As a warning, this video will contain spoilers from the first 3 episodes as well as this most recent one, so you've been warned. Episode 4 of the Amazon Prime series Invincible is out now, and in this video I'm first going to give a summary of the events from this episode, and then at the end I'll give my thoughts and rating on both the episode and on the series so far. Alright, let's get into it. This episode starts with the unveiling of a new threat. A character named Brian goes to a tomb in the desert and reawakens his master named Ka-Hor, which seems to be a superpowered sorcerer mummy of sorts. Ka-Hor possesses Brian before the tomb is shut by a sandstorm, sealing both of them inside. The next scene is between Mark or Invincible and his father Omni-man doing some flying and training in remote areas of the world. They race to Mount Everest where they surprise an unwitting mountaineer. Omni-man explains how it's the job of all Viltrumites to aid alien species and worlds, and we learn some more about his backstory and motivations. He wanted to build something new on Earth when his only family on Viltrum, his parents, died. Mark and his mom, Debbie, changed Earth from a planet to a home, and Omni-man then goes on to explain that keeping the universe safe takes sacrifice. Mark understands this, but doesn't mention how he's not sure he's prepared to make that sacrifice himself. In the next scene, Olga, the Red Rush's widow, explains to Debbie Grayson that she thinks there is a conspiracy, a cover-up, as to who actually murdered her husband along with the rest of the Guardians of the Globe, which we know from episode 1 was actually Omni-man. Because of this, she is moving back to Russia and asks for Debbie to help her sell the house. This conversation piques Debbie's interest into what really happened, so she goes and does some searching on the internet about Damien Darkblood, the demon detective, and finds that while off-putting, he is usually proven right by the end of his investigations. This, coupled with Omni-man's disregard for Olga's suffering, further sows doubt for Debbie in believing her husband's recounting of the massacre. The next scene is a date between Mark Grayson, Invincible, and his love interest Amber Bennett. They learn a little more about each other's backstory and find common ground in wanting to make the world a better place, though through different means. Next, we see Omni-man confront Damien Darkblood for his meddling investigation over the previous 2 episodes. Damien basically calls out Omni-man for what he did, which was murdering the Guardians. Omni-man then threatens to blackmail Damien for the murder if he doesn't back off. Damien responds by explaining that regardless of what happens, Debbie already suspects Omni-man and eventually the truth will come to light. The next scene we get is of the Mauler Twins, or at least one of them, setting up a new base of operations and also the process of him cloning himself. It's revealed that this whole operation is under surveillance of Robot, leader of the new Guardians of the Globe team, consisting of Rex-Splode, Monster Girl, Shrinking Ray, Black Samson, and Duplicate. We see this new team getting a not-so-subtle reminder that they are definitely not the old team of Guardians and should not let the title go to their heads. Near the end of this scene, Robot covertly takes a sample of Rex-Splodes' blood during a conversation they're having. Omni-man confronts Debbie about her distance and they get into a bit of an argument before getting snuck up on by Cecil. Mark heads home after his date with Amber and walks in on the conversation between Omni-man, Cecil, and Debbie. They're planning the first manned mission to Mars and Cecil wants Omni-man to go, but Omni-man is plainly refusing. Mark offers up to go instead, but after hearing it'll be a 2-week-long mission, he isn't so sure. Cecil is all for Mark going, Omni-man is against it, and Mark's mom, Debbie, just wants him to decide for himself. Mark decides that he wants to go, and it's revealed that while the original plan was to get Omni-man out of the way, this new setup does give the Global Defense Agency the opportunity to gauge Mark's abilities and whether his heart is in the right place. Mark goes to speak with Eve Wilkins about how to handle telling Amber that he's leaving for 2 weeks and if he should be honest about why. Eve convinces him that since he's not absolutely sure he's serious about his relationship with Amber, he probably shouldn't reveal his superhero identity to her just yet. He makes up a cover story for Amber that he's doing what she did, traveling abroad to help other people for 2 weeks. In a way, it's not exactly a lie, just the truth told in a clever way. Mark, now Invincible, joins the Mars mission last minute. He's informed on the existence of Martians and that they live underground. His mission is to make sure the human astronauts get home safe no matter what. Mark's dad, Omni-man, isn't too happy about him taking on the mission, calling it a waste of time. Debbie, on the other hand, confronts Omni-man about his change of behavior ever since Mark got his powers, becoming more distant and mean. Debbie calls out her husband for hiding stuff from her. Omni-Man then spins a nice tale about how his change in behavior has to do with the massacre of the Guardians and that he's afraid he could lose the only thing he truly cares about, which is his family. He then proposes a 2-week getaway for him and Debbie, to which she agrees. Invincible and the mission team arrive on Mars, and the crew is revealed to be unaware of the new hero's involvement. The mission begins as planned, but Invincible gets distracted by his pining for Amber, and by the time he remembers to check on his crew, they've seemingly ventured off. Cutting back to Omni-Man and Debbie, we see them enjoy the start of their vacation by reminiscing on their early dating days. The conversation eventually turns to the subject of the Guardian's murder. Omni-Man tells Debbie that Cecil thinks he is the murderer because he's the only survivor and also an alien. This sort of puts Debbie more at ease, and that this must be what Omni-Man was hiding, him being targeted as the murderer, and not that he actually is the murderer, which he is. The only thing we're not sure about right now is why exactly Omni-Man did it. This conversation is cut short by a dragon attack, to which Omni-Man says, "I'm on vacation, let Cecil earn his paycheck." Next we see Damien Darkblood snooping around the Grayson's home looking for evidence, at which point he's confronted by Cecil and some of his agents. Returning to Mars, we see Invincible following the trail of the mission team, which abruptly stops. There he finds a secret hatch which he opens that leads into the ground. He's jumped by some face-hugging aliens, which we learn are called Sequids, but manages to fight them off. Venturing into the lair, he's soon confronted by the sentient Martians, and they're the same species as one of the former Guardians of the Globe members. Invincible is led to meet with the Martian Emperor, and we also see that the research team is visibly intact. The team is also made aware of Invincible's secret mission to keep them safe, due to him being pretty terrible at it. We find out that the Martians don't like the Sequids. In fact, the Sequids are a hive mind-like destructive species that takes over the minds of sentient beings and spreads like a plague throughout space. The Martians can resist them because of their shape-shifting abilities, but normal humans are much more vulnerable and therefore pose a threat to containing the Sequids. Invincible learns that the Emperor plans to execute the humans so that they don't come in contact with the Sequids. Invincible says he understands, then proceeds to break them out and flee the Martians. After some scuffling, they all manage to escape. Invincible takes a rock as a souvenir. It's also revealed that one of the astronauts has actually been replaced, either by a Martian or by a Sequid. It's not made entirely clear. However, the Martians do find the actual astronaut, which has been taken over by Sequids, and we see the initiation of a vicious attack on the Martians. Invincible, now Mark again, meets up with Amber and gives her the Martian rock and a non-specific story about his trip. She accepts the rock and the story with grace, sort of giving the impression that she knows there is a lot more to both gestures, but that she doesn't mind not knowing exactly what it is. Then we see that Cecil actually took Damien into custody that night at the Grayson's house. It's revealed that they found blood from one of the Guardians at Damien's office. Both Damien and Cecil know that the blood was planted and that Damien didn't actually commit the crime he's being framed for, but Cecil still takes Damien in and excises him back to hell so that he can figure out exactly why Omni-Man killed the Guardians and find a way to stop him. We see Debbie cleaning up and selling the former home of Red Rush and Olga to a happy couple. She finds and keeps a portrait of Red Rush and Olga on their wedding day. Then we cut to a scene with Robot going into a secluded room containing a cloning chamber of sorts. It has a grotesque-looking humanoid form in it. As he plans to add the blood he collected from Rex-Splode, he says finally Phase 1 begins. The final scene is Omni-Man speaking to Debbie about how some new evidence came up and that he's in the clear, and Cecil even apologized for suspecting him. The scene finishes with a growl coming from what might be either a book or the portrait of Red Rush and Olga. I'm not entirely sure. What is sure though is that the growl belongs to Damien Darkblood, indicating that he might not be entirely out of the picture, and that is the end of this episode. Now for my thoughts and review. Overall, I enjoyed this episode, but felt it was pretty light on direct conflicts or action. It more so set up a lot for future episodes, which I'm looking forward to. I want to believe that Omni-Man is truly on the side of the heroes and that he had a justifiable reason for killing off the former Guardians of the Globe team, but given what we know, I can't see what that reason would be. As far as what Robot is up to, I suspect he may be trying to make a superhuman or being that can rival Omni-Man, but we still don't know enough to say. Given the scenes from the Mars mission and also with Ka-Hor at the start of the episode, it's clear that it won't be long before more threats to Earth arrive on the scene. The one thing I'm not super on board with in this series is that it sets up a lot of cliffhangers or twists that need to be resolved. It seems like so many characters, mainly Omni-Man, Cecil, Damien, and Robot, have their own secret agendas, and so far the only one we have enough information to sort of understand is with Cecil. Overall though, it definitely sets up the series for a lot of suspense and has me eagerly waiting for the next episode. As part of a running series, I'm going to give this episode an 8 out of 10, and the overall score of the series up to this point is a 9 out of 10. I'll definitely recommend this series for any fans of superhero stories. Also, this is the first one of these styled videos that I'm doing, so let me know what your thoughts are on it in the comments, and if you want to see more, I might do a recap on the first 3 episodes if this video does well enough. Until then, if you want to see more great content, you can head over to my channel where all those videos are hanging out. I mainly do videos on games. If you're new, consider subscribing. You're helping me feed my cat. Her name's Marshmallow. Have a great day. If you're here today, have a great Friday and a great weekend. And as always, thanks for watching.